Good morning on this Sunday, August 7th, and welcome to the Georgia Gang. A surprise announcement from Live Nation that Music Midtown will be canceled. Also, the debate over debates, the latest on the U.S. Senate matchup between Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker, and some new inmates may soon be filling the Atlanta City Jail. Melita, Phil, Theron, and Janelle are all here on this temporary set that I'm trying to get used to. The debate and discussion begin right now.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
The show will not go as planned. Live Nation made a shocking announcement this week. It was canceling Music Midtown. Sources said it was because of Georgia's gun laws.
I can clearly understand why the producers Live Nation did it.
Atlanta City Councilman Michael Julian Bond confirmed the decision to cancel Music Midtown stems from Georgia's gun law, which allows firearms in public spaces, including Piedmont Park. In 2019, the Georgia Supreme Court ruled the Atlanta Botanical Garden, despite being on publicly owned land, could lawfully prohibit guns due to it being a private entity. However, the ruling also set a test for private organizations using public land, which reportedly created legal issues for festivals like Music Midtown.
This is a huge loss of, economic impact for, central Midtown, downtown, and Buckhead for sure. It's already proven that, Music Midtown and the related impact of it generates millions of dollars for the city of Atlanta.
North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper sent out a tweet inviting festival organizers to his state, which is not surprising. Janelle, I'll start with you this week. Just your reactions.
Yeah, it's interesting because I see that Councilman Bond said that he confirmed that that was the reason, but then I also read that the organizers said that they declined to give a reason as to why they decided to move it. So I'm thinking that whenever I see a for-profit business move from somewhere, I immediately associate it with the fact that obviously it's not as profitable to do it here than it would have been to do it somewhere else, because that's what they're in the business of, making a profit. And then I have to consider the fact that Live Nation is also still dealing with the rollout from Astroworld, where the people passed away due to Travis Scott concert. So I'm thinking that has something to do with it as well, that they want to make sure that not only are they making money and that they are in a position where they are safe. Now, I think constitutional carry creates a safe environment, because these are people who have obtained their weapons legally. These are not criminals. So I'm a little confused as to what's the overall reason. I would like to hear it from the organizers.
Melita, could they have moved it somewhere else in Georgia?
That is a possibility, but I beg to differ. 25% of the people who acquire guns do so without receiving a permit. Further, it's a sad thing when the concert promoters' insurance policies and when the entertainment artists' riders on their contracts care more about public safety than the Republican elected officials like our governor and like the state reps and state senators who passed that constitutional carry bill.
Phil, gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams, she jumped on the issue, saying that Georgia's hard right extremist legislation has consequences.
Well, that's absurd, and it's obviously a campaign slogan. I would have to say this, when you talk about the constitutional carry bill, it had nothing to do with it, with the Midtown organizers we're talking about. We've all been to concerts, go to Chastain Park. They have wand people to search for anybody with metal detectors. The Midtown music has been dying on the vine for years. 10 years ago, we had over 200,000 people at these things, and you could see it slowly drawing, to Janelle's point, drawing down. And so they could have gotten another venue.
Well, Theron, we saw the MLB pull the All-Star game out of Georgia. Stacey Abrams warns there could be more political fallout and economic fallout, and points the blame at Governor Kemp's policies.
Well, I agree with Stacey Abrams on that, but the one thing that's shocking to me is that, and maybe it's happened, I just haven't seen it, is where's the universal sort of bipartisan outcry that the city of Atlanta stands to not only lose $50 million, my sources tell me that it could be upwards to $75 million. So while it has maybe been dwindling, the Live Nation group does a really good job of Music Midtown. But also, Lori, my source tells me that one of the main reasons why they decided not to have this event in the city of Atlanta, in Atlanta, Georgia, was because they had received threats that a group had planned to attend the festival armed. That's the first thing. Second thing that my source shared with me is that they have a contractual agreement with the artists. Some artists will not perform and if they see people who are armed in the audience. And then the last thing that I'm hearing from my source is that Republicans and Democrats, but surprisingly Republicans, are saying, you know what, maybe we need to rethink this constitutional carry. We haven't really thought this all the way through, because if you literally are going to say it's okay to lose $75 million, well, think about the small businesses, the vendors, all the people who have been preparing, the hotel industries, right? The hotels, what I'm hearing, Lori, receive thousands of calls canceling hotel rooms, and at a time where Atlanta is slated to be one of the top cities as far as conventions and stuff. So this is very detrimental. And what I'm saying is that it should be a bipartisan outcry that this is happening. And I do agree with Stacey that there are going to be more to come.
And let's talk about the political fallout, Phil. I mean, this is going to be an issue in the governor's race.
Well, it will, and it's something called the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which Theron is ignoring. I think the fact that you talk about Stacey Abrams, we lost the MLB, game here just a year ago because she helped drive it out, and now she's trying to play the card. Oh, wait a minute, we can't lose this.
Melita.
Stacey Abrams had nothing to do with the cancellation of the All-Star
Not true.
Game. And the Second Amendment calls for a well-regulated militia. And there is nothing in the Second Amendment which prevents gun safety measures and requires something as far an extreme as constitutional carry.
Janelle.
Well, the Second Amendment says that I have the right to protect myself, and that's it. I think that, and to say that Stacey Abrams didn't have anything to do with that is just ridiculous, because Stacey Abrams was sending out text messages from her organizations asking people to boycott these businesses that were associated with this whole MLB fallout. So matter of fact, we have her on record saying it. So I think that it's important to state the facts. And then to your point, though, to say that constitutional carry is somehow Republicans are somehow now shying away from that. That's just not true, because that's just not true. So, but I do want you to get your point out. But because I've talked to a number of Republicans, and there are some that may call for more restrictions, but they are by no means saying that we should get rid of constitutional carry.
That's not what I said. What I'm saying is my source is telling me that Democrats and Republicans are saying, okay, you know what, going forward, when you now have put together a law that allows people to not seek a permit, anyone can have a gun, whether it's legal or illegal. We know that there's a private market where people are stealing guns out of cars and you can go buy. And so to me, I think thinking it through and how it has an impact on organizers, I think that has things. And then the last thing I want to say is this, don't cut me off, Phil. I agree with Melita. The reason why the MLB All-Star Game left Georgia is because Senate Bill 202. If there was no Senate Bill 202, this voter restriction bill, then I think the MLB and others would have decided to come. It's only the reaction to this very voter restrictive bill that led to a lot of comments from Stacey Abrams.
You still have to have a background check there, don't forget that.
Okay, I got to move on because we have a really important federal court ruling on the PSC race, which will now be delayed in November. I mean, this is a huge development. Melita.
Well, the PSC is represented by 5 people who are elected in districts, but they're voted on statewide. And so what the federal judge has said in his ruling is that unfairly discriminates against black voters to have a statewide election for district representation.
Phil.
Well, when you're doing redistricting, as we all know, and the maps change and the populations change, and you have to do the districts because of those population changes, the courts have ruled, the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled, that you can do partisan redistricting, Democrat, Republican. You cannot do racially motivated redistricting. So I think what's going to happen, and we're going to have to look at what happens now as this unfolds, there may be some email discovery that says that maybe this was not the case, that it wasn't just partisan. I don't know. We don't know. But I do think it'll be appealed.
Phil, Theron, this has really far-reaching implications.
It does. And this U.S. District Attorney, Stephen Grimberg, was appointed by former President Donald Trump. And I want to read exactly what he said. It said this, he believes unlawfully dilutes the votes of black citizens. And therein question is where it is, because it's a thing that I think that will probably be appealed. But I have to say this though, Laura, is that the Public Service Commission does do some good work. They're very constructive. They are needed because at a time where we're trying to make sure that technology and energy continues to be thriving in this state, and we want to attract these businesses, we definitely want to make sure that it's not sort of missed that this is a very good group of men and women that do good work.
They oversee utilities.
Yeah, we want to mention that U.S. Judge Stephen Grimberg is a U.S. District Judge. Go ahead, Janelle.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that to say that making the race statewide somehow dilutes the black vote, it actually encourages more Black people to vote in the process. So I think that, overall, I'm still trying to understand how this is directly associated with the Black community. I think it's another way of kind of, stretching it a bit, because at this point, it's not to say that if we move it to the districts that there's a Black person going to be elected. I mean, I think it's more so around political parties, right? Republican or Democrat. If the district is predominantly Democrat, you may get a Democrat.
Well, it's really the interpretation of does it violate the Voter Rights Act, right? And I think that's what the judge is saying. I mean, it's a 64-page opinion that really, honestly, I think has got some merit. I mean, we do need to look at this. But ultimately, the question is, will it be appealed? And then will it be in effect for this upcoming election? I don't think it will be, but we'll have to wait and see.
Well,
All right,
the judge has set aside the election.
Yes,
Okay.
just delay the election.
Okay.
That's why it has
All the
far-reaching
elections
implications.
for PSC.
For PSC only, though.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Coming up, Republican U.S. Senate candidate Herschel Walker commits to a debate against incumbent Raphael Warnock.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Email them at georgiagang@foxtv.com.
Republican Herschel Walker says he will debate Senator Raphael Warnock in Warnock's hometown of Savannah on October 14th. Theron, we now think we have a debate on the books, but who knows?
Well, the fact that we're talking about it every week, I think maybe that's a part of the Walker strategy. I have to agree with something that Janelle said a couple weeks ago, and that is that, for those of us who've been in the inside, it's really a tactic, right? You want to kind of get your opponent off. You want to drive them to negotiations. You want to hear what they have to say. Do you want to counter? To me, I think that that's really a tactic that the Walker campaign is using to stall. I would not be surprised, Lori, if Herschel Walker never debates. Because think about it. It's either going to be one extreme. He's going to get on there and he's going to totally not do well. And I think a lot of people are going to be not that shocked. Or he may get on there and not do so bad. And we're like, okay, at least he can actually hold his own for 30, 90 minutes or so. But ultimately, I think what is really unfortunate is that we're not talking about the issues. And I want to stop talking about the debates. I want to talk about the issues, compare these two men, and let's see who has the best message.
Phil, my argument. I mean, you're running for U.S. Senate. You have to debate. I mean, it's not like you're going to win and go to Washington and the media is not going to hound you and put a camera in your face. You've got to be prepared for this. And this does not look good on the Herschel Walker campaign.
I agree, although there are a lot of negotiations going on between both the Warnock and the Walker camps. Okay. In fact, I talked with Herschel Walker just the other day. He wants to debate. And Warnock agreed to the Savannah debate. Both have agreed to that debate. Interestingly, Walker wanted a so-called Lincoln-Douglas debate where you really only have a moderator and no journalists, where both candidates are asking questions to one another. I happen to like that. Now, I think there will be, and I think he's really honed down his messaging. He has come a long way from that first interview, remember, with Russ Spencer here at Fox 5. He has his talking points down, and I think you won't like this. I think he's going to hold his own in a debate.
All right, well, I'm moving on because I'm sick of asking whether he'll debate or not. We'll find out in a couple weeks. So this week, Georgia's Department of Revenue announced guidance to parents expecting a child. They are able to claim a $3,000 deduction per embryo or fetus. Melita, to you on this issue first.
Well, if I were a family expecting a child, I wouldn't be counting on how to spend that money, because on Monday afternoon, we have a hearing on the ACLU filed lawsuit opposing HB 481. That's a long lawsuit, and I believe there's a strong chance that the bill will be set aside yet again in the state court this time rather than the federal court, because Georgia's privacy protections guaranteed by a 1905 Supreme Court decision are stronger even than the federal case protections. And the Georgia ruling from 1905 has been cited in more than 200 cases nationwide, including 4 Supreme Court cases.
Janelle.
Yeah, so I think the rallying cry on the left is that, as a pro-life person, that we don't care enough about the mother. And so we put something in the bill that supports the mom. And we hear about having inadequate health care. We hear about having inadequate environments to be able to bring a child in. So now we put this into the bill that says that now we can give you financial support while you are carrying the child, and that's a problem. That's confusing to me. I'm like, why can't she utilize this money to ensure that she has adequate health health care, adequate environment for the baby. She can prepare ahead of time. That's what I think this is for, and I thought that was a positive.
Let's stay on this issue, but talk about what happened in Kansas this week, because Kansas voters sent a message about their desire to protect abortion rights. They rejected a ballot measure in the conservative state that would have allowed the Republican-controlled legislature to tighten restrictions or ban the procedure outright. Phil, this issue is obviously galvanizing Democrats. Does that worry Republicans heading into November?
Well, in all 50 states, you ought to look at what's happening in that state. And so, yes, you have to worry in some states, and others maybe not so much. I do think it was interesting in Kansas where, yes, it was a pro-choice vote. And we've all said that polling shows that a majority of Americans are pro-choice, but polling also shows that a majority of Americans are also for restrictions. I actually had to read that ballot wording twice in Kansas, and it really wasn't clear. If you don't know what it's about, you vote no. I will say the Republican candidate for governor in that same election got more votes than the Democrat, even though the pro-choice people won. So that's why I say it's a state-by-state thing. And so I wasn't that worried. I think the Republicans are still going to hold Kansas.
Theron, I wonder if a similar measure was on the Georgia ballot, if we'd have the same outcome.
If it was actually on there now, I think we would. The challenge with Democrats is that how do we keep the pressure on until maybe November with elections, and then actually keeping the pressure on, keeping the messaging together after January of next year. The one thing that was really interesting to me, Lori, is that the demographic sort of coalition of women who came out and voted against this measure. And so at a time where, I'm glad you mentioned this, that Kansas is a conservative state, they have a good governor there currently, but I think that you saw them come out in droves. And so we all know that elections are about turnout, it's about message, but it's also about building the right coalition. That's how we were able to get Joe Biden to be the person who won Georgia. That's how Warnock, that's how Ossoff won. We built that coalition. So now what we got to do as Democrats is study what happened in Kansas, do some focus groups, empower those women to talk to women here, and to make sure that we are keeping the pressure on and keeping the momentum, the pro-choice momentum, and that it leads it to November.
And Janelle, yes, because I want to ask you this. We've seen the Democrats in Georgia really focus on this issue and really across the country, because it does galvanize Democrats and some moderates, right? So, what is the messaging? I mean, obviously Republicans want to talk about the economy and inflation and gas prices, but Democrats have this single issue they want to really focus in on.
Right. Yeah, it's a motivating factor on the left. And I think that it's important to note that this is what the Supreme Court Justice ruling was supposed to do. It's the whole purpose was to send it back to the states and let the states decide. Although I'm pro-life, I can't look at this and say, oh, this was wrong. This is what the people decided. I don't live in Kansas. If that's what they want, then that's what they should have. I think that's where, as Republicans, I think that's where we should stay, is that this is what we're for. We are for states' rights, allowing the states to decide what works best for their people.
Melita?
Some of the messaging we saw successfully work in Kansas about not allowing state politicians to control a woman's medical decisions will effectively work in Georgia. And I think you're seeing candidates move in that direction. And I believe that the November election will be a turnout election. It's a matter of who turns out their base and appeals to the middle. And abortion, gun rights, and voting rights are all ways Democrats will appeal to the middle in November.
The weak spot for the Democrats, though, in Georgia is how radical do they get? Some of these candidates are saying, well, we want abortion right up to the date of birth. Now, well, Stacey Abrams flipped on it. You and I have debated that.
Well, one of the things I'll give you,
she backed off.
I'll give you some credit, Phil. That's going to shock our viewers. But, when Virginia governor's race happened, you, and I pushed back, said that momentum would carry over into other states, and it did, because you had a Republican governor there. I think that the momentum we saw in Kansas will also carry over to other states like Georgia. So I think the momentum is building and is favoring the pro-choice movement right now.
Let's
talk about that in 2 more months.
We have a lot of time to talk about that. Coming up, the Atlanta City Jail will house some Fulton County inmates after all.
Join the discussion on the Georgia Gang Facebook page and watch past episodes on the Georgia Gang YouTube channel.
Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens will let Fulton County Sheriff Pat Labatt use 700 beds to house jail inmates. The mayor plans to make the bed space available for up to 4 years. Both the city of Atlanta and Fulton County, though, will have to sign off on the deal. Theron.
So I see both sides on this issue. Let's start with Sheriff Labatt. who's someone who used to run the correction center. He was the chief of corrections for the city of Atlanta for decades and retired. And so he's been asking, hey, can you temporarily, and I want to stress that word temporarily, allow for inmates that I have literally laying on the floor in Fulton County to come over into your detention center. And what he's framing it as, along with the mayor, is that it's a humanitarian crisis, all right? And if you talk to the sheriff, and I know Phil talks to him from time to time, and his wife, is that it's really a mental illness issue that we also have at a jail. However, I see the flip side, and that is that you got to really look at what Mayor Dickens said. This is a temporary solution. We're going to give them some beds temporarily to help them with their crisis, but he's still very committed to the repurposing of this jail. And so Phil and others like to always tell our viewers that the jail has been closed. No, it's been operating. But what they're doing now is that give a temporary lease to Fulton County. But the mayor is still very committed, and I agree that we got to repurpose this jail. This is something that Mayor Bottoms put in place that Mayor Dickens, I think, is sort of maybe remixing and reframing it. But ultimately, the way we got to utilize this very important space in Atlanta is to make sure that we're helping moms, we're helping people who are there to basically go out and be productive citizens in life. And I think that's ultimately what you're going to see with this spot.
Phil.
Well, hallelujah. I'm glad that whether it's they say it's temporary or not, I hope it's not temporary. I hope it's going to be permanent, because rapes are up, murders are up, aggravated assaults are up this year from last year. So they had to do something. This was crazy. It was basically closed, and you know it. There was only a few inmates in there. Anyhow, it was a waste of millions and millions of dollars of taxpayer money. And so I think this is the right thing to do, and I'm glad you're finally. I'm glad the mayor. I'm going to praise the mayor for finally doing this.
All right, well, I want to move on because a Clayton County police officer charged in the murder of 26-year-old Jamarian Robinson in 2016 is not only still working for the department, but he was in a training position. Robinson's mother held a press conference this week demanding Officer Chris Hutchins be fired. The chief has moved him to a non-training position. Janelle.
Yeah, so when I was reading this, I don't have enough information, right? I can't be the judge, the jury, the prosecutor, and the eyewitness, you know? So while it may sound like it's something wrong, I don't know. And so we are all innocent until proven guilty. That goes across the board. I feel that way with anyone that commits any kind of crime. You're innocent until proven guilty. As long as they are following proper procedures, I'm okay with it. It's when you start breaking procedures and then showing, nepotism or other forms of preferential treatment that I have a problem.
And Melita, in similar instances, we see these officers put on like kind of a quote desk job.
Right. The Peace Officer Trainings and Standards and Training Council shows that his basic law enforcement certification was suspended, as well as his instructor certificate. So why was he training people? It was a great lapse of judgment based on the information we know of the Clayton County Police Department, and I think it's absolutely correct and reasonable for the mother of the victim to be raising Cain, as we say.
Theron.
No, I can see both points. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's about transparency. This will be ongoing, but I want to praise the family for continuing to actually promote this issue. I mean, you see them in the press conference demanding justice, demanding more answers. And so I think that, unless you really actually put that advocacy in, many of us won't even know that this has happened. Mm-hmm. But also, this officer is the person who's supervising him. This department's got to explain why is he still there and what is his role going to be going forward.
All right, coming up, everyone, winners and losers. Stay tuned.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
Well, Georgia truly lost a giant this week in Charlie Loudermilk, Phil.
Absolutely. I think all of us know the reputation of this great Atlanta pillar of the business community and philanthropist. We lost him at age 95. There's a lot we could say about it, but he will be missed.
All right, Theron.
Just real quick, offer my condolences to the Loudermilk family. I mean, I've heard so many stories from a lot of people I look up to about how he played a pivotal role in not only the growth of Atlanta, but the growth of the region. I mean, you look at the philanthropic millions and millions of dollars that he's given back to a countless amount of organizations. He definitely will be missed. My second winner is going to be Chris Womack, the CEO and president and chairman of the board at Georgia Power. He was named the Atlanta Business Chronicle CEO of the Year, along with Valerie Valls. Chris is someone who works very hard. He's got this extraordinary role, but an extraordinary challenge, and so I definitely want to commend him. Also, I want to make the Atlanta Open, this great tennis match that comes to Atlanta every year. Eddie Gonzalez does a wonderful job there. And then lastly, Lori, I want to commend the Athens-Clarke County Commission for decriminalizing marijuana. My good hometown is a part of this movement. Great job, you guys.
We can smell it in our cars.
Yeah.
All right, Alita.
Well, we'll all be reminded of Charlie Loudermilk during the Young Loudermilk debate series as the November election approaches. My winner involves one of Atlanta's favorite winners of all time, Hank Aaron, and the new placement of a bronze bust, which had earlier been at Turner Field. I admit to skipping class in 1974. I've got the button to prove it when he hit home run 715. And I love that they have created a spot in the park near his home with a mural behind the statue, and they've renamed the Adams Park in his honor, so the children at that baseball complex will be reminded of his achievements. My other winner would be okay, we'll go to.
Okay, Janelle, I got to get Janelle.
Okay, okay, real quick. My winner is Tim and Becky O'Mara. They are the founders of Bearings Bike Works, which is an organization in Southwest Atlanta. They're doing great work. Check them out.
I love them.
Yeah, oh, they're
I love
awesome.
them. They're great.
And then I just want to invite two events I want to invite everyone to. August 23rd, I'll be speaking on a panel on Frontline Conservative Business Alliance. And then August 27th, I'm going to be speaking on a panel at the Together for Truth Summit with special guest Ted Cruz at the Westin Buckhead. I'll put both on my social media page.
All right, 17 seconds. Do I get one more winner in?
All the volunteers and Department of Natural Resources personnel who have documented almost 4,000 sea turtles they're trying to protect along the Georgia coast.
I'm glad we got that in. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.